She yelled, "I should have married Chris. At least he's a real man." I quietly said, "You still can," then sent Chris a screenshot of her words. His reply froze her in the bathroom. I'm 32 male. I sat in my car in the driveway for a solid 20 minutes before I could bring myself to go inside. That had become my routine for the last 6 months. It wasn't that I hated my house. I actually loved it. It was a 1960s mid-century modern restoration project I had bought 3 years before I even met my wife. I paid the mortgage, I did the sanding, the painting, and the plumbing with my own 2 hands. It was my sanctuary until it became her stage for grievances. My wife, 30 female, and I had been married for 2 years, together for 4. The first year was great, the kind of honeymoon phase where you think you've hacked life. The second year, however, was a slow descent into a hell of comparison and inadequacy. She had this way of rewriting history where she was the victim of my stability. To her, my steady job as a structural engineer wasn't providing, it was stifling. She missed the chaos of her 20s. Specifically, she missed Chris. Chris was her ex-boyfriend from college. From what I gathered over the years, Chris was a chaotic, unemployed musician who cheated on her, borrowed money he never paid back, and eventually ghosted her to move to Nashville to find himself. But in the revisionist history of her mind, Chris was a free spirit who understood her soul. I was just the wallet who paid for the therapy to get over him. I walked into the house and the atmosphere was already heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. There were boxes in the hallway, expensive ones, Nordstrom, Sephora, a few boutique bags. I looked at them, then at the credit card alert on my phone. She dropped $2,000 today. We had agreed to a strict budget because we were trying to save for a rental property to build passive income, something we talked about for months. I found her in the master bathroom, applying a green clay face mask. She didn't look up when I leaned against the doorframe. I kept my voice level when I mentioned the shopping, reminding her that the Amex was maxed out again. She mumbled something about needing a pick-me-up, then told me not to start with the spreadsheet talk because she wasn't in the mood. I reminded her that since I pay the mortgage, the utilities, the car notes, and the groceries, her salary is supposed to be for savings and her personal expenses, yet she hadn't saved a dime in a year. She spun around, eyes flashing, and told me I was boring. She said all I cared about was money and that I acted like a miser despite making 6 figures. I told her I make 6 figures because I don't blow $2,000 on a random Tuesday. She screamed that she invests in herself, something I wouldn't understand because I have 0 style and 0 passion. Here we go, the pivot. It was never about the math, it was always about my character flaws. I told her this wasn't about passion, it was about respect, and that she was spending money we didn't have. She let out a harsh laugh and said that Chris never cared about money. She said they were broke but happy because he made her feel alive, whereas I made her feel like she was living in a spreadsheet. I asked if she meant the same Chris who stole her laptop to pawn it for weed. She screamed that he was an artist with intensity and fire, and he didn't treat her like an employee. She brushed past me, storming into the bedroom, and I followed, tired of this ghost in our marriage. I asked her if he was so great, why did he leave her in a Motel 6 in Memphis? She stopped dead, turned around with her face red beneath the drying mask, and looked at me with genuine loathing. Then she said it. She yelled that he left because she was too scared to jump with him. She screamed that she settled for me and that she should have married Chris because at least he's a real man who takes risks, while I'm just safe. The room went silent. There are moments in a relationship where you can feel the structural integrity snap, and that was it. The girder gave way. Safe, settled, real man. I didn't yell back. I didn't get angry. I felt a strange, cold clarity wash over me. It was the feeling of a problem finally being identified and a solution presenting itself. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. She crossed her arms and snapped, asking if I was checking my bank account again. I said no. I told her quietly that since she said she should have married Chris, I was just looking out for her because she still could. I had Chris's number. Not because we were friends, but because 6 months ago, Chris had drunkenly texted my wife asking for money, and she had blocked him, or so she said. I had saved the number from the phone bill logs when I audited our expenses, suspicious of a recurring Venmo charge. I opened a new message thread to Chris and typed a message telling him that my wife just screamed she should have married Chris because he's a real man, so I figured I'd let him know she's available if he wants to pick up where they left off. I hit send. Then I took a screenshot of the text I just sent and held the phone to her face. I told her I just sent it to him. Her arrogance vanished instantly. The color drained from her face, making the green mask look even more absurd. She stammered, asking if I really did that. I nodded. She shrieked that I was a psycho and lunged for the phone, yelling at me to delete it or unsend it. I told her calmly that it was an SMS, so there is no unsending. It's done. Her phone buzzed on the dresser, then mine buzzed. It had been less than 30 seconds. Chris was apparently not busy. I looked at the screen and smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. I asked her if she wanted to see what her real man had to say. She was frozen near the bathroom door, trembling. I read it out loud. Chris replied with a simple, "Lol. No thanks, bro. She's totally crazy. And she's expensive. You can keep her. Tell her I said thanks for the Venmo last month, though. That $500 really helped with my car repair." The silence that followed was deafening. She froze. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The implication hung in the air. She had been funneling money to him. The Nordstrom returns I never saw credits for, the groceries that seemed to cost double. I asked her, voice dangerously low, if she sent him money. She stammered that he was in trouble and reached out. I reminded her she told me she blocked him and called me controlling for asking about the Venmo charges. She started crying, tears cutting tracks through the face mask, saying it was just a loan and he was going to pay her back. She said I didn't understand because he was desperate. I told her she took money from our joint account, money I earned, and sent it to the ex-boyfriend she just told me she wished she had married. I walked into the closet and grabbed my duffel bag. She panicked, grabbing my arm, asking where I was going. I shook her off and told her I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. I owned it before I met her. My name is on the deed. Her name is nowhere near it. I told her I was moving her into the guest room. She yelled that I couldn't do that. I told her to watch me, and that tomorrow I'm calling a lawyer. That night she banged on the locked master bedroom door for an hour, alternating between sobbing apologies and screaming that I was abusive for invading her privacy by texting him. I put on my noise-canceling headphones and slept like a baby. The next morning,
the war began. She was gone when I woke up. She had taken the car, my car technically, though she drove it mostly. I checked the bank accounts immediately. She had tried to transfer $10,000 from the joint savings to her personal checking at 3 a.m. Blocked. I had moved the funds to my personal, premarital account the moment I locked the bedroom door the night before. I left her exactly $500 in the joint account, enough for food, not enough for a lawyer. I went to work, but not to the office. I went to the best divorce attorney in the city, a woman named Sarah who had a reputation for destroying entitled spouses. I laid out the financials for Sarah. House is premarital, separate property. No commingling of funds for the mortgage. I have the deed. I have the receipts of her sending marital assets to an affair partner, which is financial infidelity. Sarah asked if she slept with him. I said I didn't know and asked if it mattered. Sarah explained that in our state, it matters for alimony. If we can prove she diverted marital funds to him, we can argue dissipation of assets. It reduces what she gets. And the house? If I never put her name on it and paid the mortgage from an account she didn't contribute to, she's out of luck. She might get a share of the appreciation value, but she's not getting the house. I told Sarah I wanted her out. Sarah warned me to be careful with eviction during a divorce, but admitted that if things got volatile, we had options. Things got volatile. When I got home, her mother, my MIL, was there. MIL was the source of my wife's entitlement. She was a woman who had divorced 3 wealthy men and lived off the settlements. She viewed marriage as a career path. They were in the living room drinking my expensive scotch. MIL spat at me as I walked in, calling me an abusive piece of trash. I told them to get out of my house. MIL yelled that it was her daughter's house, too. She said my wife told her everything, how I humiliated her and contacted her ex to triangulate and abuse her, claiming it was emotional violence. I poured myself a glass of water and said that she told me she wished she married him, so I just facilitated the conversation. MIL announced smugly that my wife is filing for divorce and taking the house. She said they know the law, and since she's been my wife for 2 years, she has rights to the lifestyle she's accustomed to. I told her she's accustomed to spending money she doesn't earn, and she's not taking the house because it's separate property. MIL sneered and said we'll see about that. She said her lawyer says I've been financially abusive by restricting her access to funds and freezing accounts, which looks very bad. I told her I froze the accounts because she tried to drain them to send more money to Chris. My wife, who had been silent, looked up and tried to deny it. I cut her off, telling her I have the transfer attempt logs and the text from Chris confirming the previous payments. I told her to look up dissipation of marital assets. MIL stood up and said they were staying there and I could leave. I told them no, I'm staying, they are guests I'm asking to leave. If they didn't leave, I was calling the police for trespassing. MIL laughed and told me to call them, saying they would tell the police I threatened them. This was the dirty trick I had expected, the Darvo technique: deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. I said okay and pulled my phone out of my shirt pocket. The camera lens peeked over the top. I informed them that I've been recording since I walked in the door. I explained that while audio laws vary, I'm video recording in my own home where there's no expectation of privacy in the living room. I invited them to tell the police I threatened them, adding that I'd love to show the officers the footage of them drinking my scotch and plotting to file a false report. MIL's face went pale. The false report threat is a serious crime. She stammered that I was bluffing. I told her to try me. They left. My wife packed a bag and went to her mother's. The next 3 months were a barrage of legal motions. They tried everything. First came the alimony demand. She demanded $4,000 a month in temporary spousal support. Her lawyer argued she had become dependent on my income and I had forced her not to save by making her pay for her own clothes. My rebuttal was simple. We submitted her W-2s. She made $75,000 a year. She wasn't destitute, she was irresponsible. We also submitted the credit card statements showing $30,000 in luxury goods in 1 year. The judge denied the temporary support, stating she was fully employable and capable of supporting herself. Then came the house grab. They argued that because she bought new curtains and painted the guest room, she had invested sweat equity into the home, converting it to marital property. My lawyer produced the invoices. I had paid for the paint. I had hired the installer for the curtains. She hadn't lifted a finger. Furthermore, the mortgage was paid exclusively from my premarital account, which I strictly kept separate, a frantic move I made years ago on my dad's advice that saved my life. The judge ruled the house was 100% separate property. Then came the abuse card. This was the lowest blow. She filed a motion claiming emotional distress, citing the text to Chris as an act of cruelty designed to inflict mental anguish. She wanted a settlement for pain and suffering. The climax of the legal battle happened in a deposition. Her lawyer, a greasy guy who looked like he chased ambulances before chasing divorces, was grilling me. He asked if I agreed that contacting my wife's former lover was intended to humiliate her. I said calmly that I intended to give her what she asked for. She stated a preference for him, so I checked availability. He asked if I showed her the rejection to hurt her. I said I showed her the truth, that she was financing a fantasy. Then my lawyer, Sarah, dropped the hammer. It was Excerpt D. It was a subpoenaed log of text messages between my wife and Chris, dating back 8 months. Her lawyer looked confused, saying they didn't see this in discovery. Sarah smiled and said we just got it from the provider yesterday. The texts were damning. My wife texting him saying she hates me, calling me boring because I just work and talk about the future, and saying she misses them. Chris replying about rent being due and asking to spot him $300. My wife saying sent and that she loves him. It went on for pages. She wasn't just venting, she was emotionally cheating and financing his life while carrying debt in our marriage. Sarah stated this establishes an extramarital affair and distinct financial dissipation. We were countersuing for the return of the $4,500 she sent him, to be deducted from her share of the retirement assets. My wife looked at the papers. She looked at me. For the first time, she looked small. She whispered that she just wanted to be happy. I told her she wanted to be single.
Now she is. The resolution came fast after that. Her lawyer knew they were dead in the water. The judge would likely make her pay my legal fees if they dragged this out to trial, given the evidence of financial misconduct. The settlement was clear. The house was mine, and she had 30 days to remove her remaining property. Alimony was zero. For asset division, she kept her car and the loan attached to it. She kept her credit card debt.
Solely in her name. I kept my retirement accounts intact. The only thing she got was half of the joint checking account balance as of the date of separation, which was exactly $250. The kicker was that because she had charged $2,000 on my supplementary credit card for that Nordstrom haul after the argument, the judge ordered her to reimburse me or return the goods. She had to write me a check because she had already worn the items or thrown away the tags, destroying their return value. The day she moved out was the final confrontation. I sat on the porch, drinking coffee. I had changed the locks an hour ago, but I unlocked the door for her movers. MIL was there, supervising, shooting daggers at me. My wife walked out with the last box. She looked tired. She had lost that arrogant spark. Living with her mother in a 2-bedroom condo wasn't the lifestyle she imagined. She stopped by the porch steps and told me that I could have fought for her. She said if I really loved her, I wouldn't have let her go just because she said one stupid thing. The entitlement was terminal. Even now, it was my job to fix her betrayal. I corrected her, telling her she didn't say one stupid thing. She said the truth. She wanted a real man like Chris. She wanted the excitement. I told her I gave her the ultimate excitement: consequences. She spat that Chris is a loser and that he blocked her after I texted him. I said it sounded like he's smarter than I gave him credit for. She sneered, trying to regain some ground, and said she's going to find someone better than me, someone who appreciates a woman with passion. I told her good luck, but to make sure he has a big bank account because she's expensive. She got in her car and slammed the door. I watched them drive away. I walked back inside. The house was quiet. The boxes were gone. The smell of her perfume was fading. It was just me and the mid-century beams I had sanded by hand. I walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, and saw a bottle of champagne she had bought for her birthday but never opened because she was too depressed about her life. I popped the cork. It's been 6 months. I've repainted the bedroom. I've traveled to Japan, something she never wanted to do because it wasn't a beach vibe. My savings are recovering. My stress levels are non-existent. I heard through a mutual friend that she's dating a DJ now. He's 24. He doesn't have a car. Apparently they are very passionate. I hope she enjoys paying for his Uber. As for me, I learned that being a boring provider is only a flaw if you're providing for a parasite. When you provide for yourself, it's called freedom. If you enjoyed watching an entitled ex get a reality check that bounced harder than her credit score, subscribe for more.